Right now, more than 15.8 million Texans are registered to vote. That's a record number. And there's a new push to get more of those voters to the polls in November, when Texans will decide the fate of several amendments to the state's constitution. A lot of responsibility to raise voter turnout falls on the new Texas Secretary of State. Ruth Hughs just started the job. She takes over after controversy earlier this year forced previous Secretary of State David Whitley to step down. You may remember lawmakers did not confirm his nomination after questions about his role in an effort to purge suspected non-citizen voters from the Texas voter rolls. Now, Hughs spoke with our Wes Rapaport, and she says she's focused on making sure everyone who is eligible to vote in this next election votes.
Why should we be civically engaged, and why is this upcoming election important?
Not everyone is aware that we actually have an election coming up this year, November 5th, with a lot of constitutional amendments, and so the deadline to register for those elections is October 7th. And so I'm really hoping that people know that, and if they're eligible to vote, that they register to vote by that October 7th deadline, and that they go to votetexas.gov to get some more details on what will be on the ballot if they would like to look into that, be better informed before they go to the polls. But we know that an active and engaged citizenry is really essential to our democracy, so we want to make sure that everyone that's eligible registers to vote.
What's the difference between getting people registered and actually compelling them to go out and vote?
At a local level, there's a lot of efforts in that respect. I mean, certainly we just want to make sure that people know their rights and they know that they have an opportunity to put their voices out there, make them be heard, and to shape the future of Texas in a way that reflects our values. And so it's an important opportunity. It's an important act of civic engagement. And so we do our best to promote it, to make sure people know that those opportunities are out there, and then ultimately to also facilitate whether it's polling places or early voting or many of the things that our local election officials do across the state to really facilitate the ability to vote and to get out and vote.
You get a year and a half to do the job at least until lawmakers weigh in and make a decision. That's sort of unlike your predecessor. Is that more pressure or less pressure in kind of the grand scheme of the responsibilities?
As far as that goes, I feel like I show up every day and do the best job I can do in the time that I have to do it, and I'm really proud and honored to serve, and that the governor has entrusted me with this position. I know that it's a very important time, and so I'm really committed to doing everything we can do to make sure that there is a lot of faith in the process, and that we get it right, and that we really secure that integrity of our election process. So I'm not focusing too much on a year and a half from now, but every day I know that we're going to make sure that we do the best we can to make sure Texans have a lot of faith in our system, and that they really help us to continue to shape the future of our state by having their voices heard.
What are you working on from a statewide perspective to encourage more engagement?
We certainly have a lot of social media outreach. We try to take these opportunities to get the word out as much as we can. I've been visiting some high schools to encourage students that are turning 18 to go ahead and register to vote if they're eligible, making sure that they appreciate the importance of it. Studies have showed the earlier in life that you begin to vote, the more likely you are to be a longtime voter. So I think that there's a lot of value in promoting that, and we're continuing to work at a local level as far as making sure they have the resources that they need to get the word out. It's just important to really take an opportunity to vote, since it's such a tremendous privilege that we have in this country.
People seem to bring politics into our voting process a lot. Is that something that you are conscious about, and how do you kind of separate those things to kind of remove the politics from that, I guess the civic engagement piece of it?
Sure. I think I'm focused on the civic engagement piece of it. I've been entrusted to serve in this position. My position in particular is the only of the 6 executive branch positions in the Constitution that is actually not an elected position. So I was appointed by the governor. I have the mandate of making sure that we protect the integrity of the election process, and that's where my focus is. It's not political, but it is very much in making sure that we get it right for Texas.
And if you're not registered to vote for the November election, you're running out of time. The deadline is Monday, October 7th. Thank you again for joining us for State of Texas. I'm Phil Prazen. We'll be back next week to bring you an in-depth look at Texas politics.